Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back on another video from Chuck. Now, I don't know why I've put these videos off for so long. I'm trying to now this month get through long videos that I've been meaning to do for a while. So March is going to be like the long videos if I can get them downloaded. So this Kenpachi vs Byakuya was released ages ago. Then it got removed. Then they uploaded a new version. That's how long it's been for this. Then there's Urahara and Ukiura, and then he's recently gone and uploaded Yamamoto vs Ichibei. So I'm going to get through these three videos, not right now. We're going to check out Kenpachi vs Byakuya today, but I'm going to do like maybe every other day, maybe every 3 days, get through these three videos, in between all the other stuff that I'm trying to check out. I recently did Seth the Programmer's ranking every Dragon Ball character from Weakest Strongest, which was good. I wanted to do Swag Kage's every Naruto character, but for some reason it didn't download the whole video for me, so I'm trying to get through them. But anyway, let's check out Kenpachi vs Byakuya. Who would win?
Hey, what is
I gotta say, I think it's
your boy
Kenpachi,
Chuck,
to be fair.
and today is the Kangaroo Man himself,
Oh.
the Australian Bleach Master,
Clyde? Cool! I didn't realise this was a collab. Awesome!
For sure, bro. It's been pretty hyped to research for this, and Bleach
Sick.
is, one of our favorites.
Bleach is coming back!
And,
Bleach is coming back!
Let's do a versus
I can't
battle
wait for the anime
between
back.
The most popular characters out there between Byakuya Kuchiki, who's like the noble man, one of
Yeah.
the most interesting characters, most popular ones out there, and Kenpachi Zaraki.
It depends where we're... Kenpachi with his Byakugan.
And basically, we have both
Byakugan?
thinking if
His
these
Bankai.
were decided to actually come out on top.
That is like
So we're
insane.
gonna be analyzing the manga, not the
With his
movies, 'cause it
Byakugan?
doesn't really
That's
matter.
what he's hiding
And
underneath
we're
there.
also talking about what happens in one of the novels. We're not gonna
Oh.
be going over Can't Fear Your Own World because it is not fully translated, and honestly, the scaling's kind of weird at that one.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we decided to do this matchup because when you think about Bleach and sort of inverse scaling, right, when it comes to like a series like Naruto, there's about 50 million fights that you can pick from.
Yeah.
Tobirama versus Kasame, Sasuke versus Pain, how would Jiraiya actually have done against like Itachi and Kasame when they faced off, just little things like
That
that.
would have been an
So
interesting
me and
one,
Chuck were
yeah.
Thinking about, well, what are some examples of this when it comes to Bleach? Because Bleach has a lot of fights like this too throughout the series, like probably just as much, if not more, right? Because there's a lot of characters.
Like interesting
that
matchups, like
really
what
get,
would happen.
delved into, but
Ah.
there's just so many that, like, Kuba doesn't have the time to talk about really. So we
Yeah.
were thinking about fights like that, and this is probably one of the biggest ones that sticks out like a sore thumb, just because it's actually shown to us a lot by the author himself. So ever since like the Soul Society arc, it was really emphasized that these two particular captains are somewhat competitive in regards to the way they match up.
Yes, they are. They are obstacles for Ichigo, like, aren't they, throughout the story?
As the story progresses, we get to see that they're competitive in actual confrontations. Like they mentioned how they've actually wanted to fight each other for a long time, and it's also a really generally sort of interesting clash of personalities because Byakuya is more of the clean-cut, edgier character.
And then Kenpachi's very much,
whereas
I'm gonna kick your ass!
Vegeta, Grimjow, like
Yeah.
rival-esque sort of like, I just want to fight everybody sort of feel to him. So it's like, it's interesting.
He's
to
more
see
loud
them
and
go at each other.
aggressive.
It has been shown to us once again by the author that this is a battle that he is showing us as an audience. Like, hey, these two characters, same sort of ballpark as captains when it comes to their power.
Just completely different approaches to
I
fighting.
think it's interesting to have them two go at each other. So me and Chuck are like, alright, well,
Who would
would
win?
actually win in this battle?
Yeah.
Because even up until the very end of the series, like in the war arc, the power sort of dynamic between Kenpachi, Byakuya, and some of the other captains is very competitive. Like when Byakuya comes back from the Soul Palace, it's very apparent, like, hey, they're still in the same ballpark.
Right.
Like Kenpachi is just miles stronger
Remembering
than
now.
him ever since getting his powers and so on. But that's why we thought we would do this fight, and we thought it would be interesting for you guys to listen to because it's our first collab. And then we're also going to do real quick. We're going to do
first time
individual videos on either of these characters. So Chuck's going to do a complete video breakdown, like a 30+ minute video on Byakuya, and I'm going to do a huge breakdown video on Kenpachi. So if you want to go check that out, go subscribe to my channel in the description. It'll be a really good video, and then also when Chuck releases his Byakuya video, that's going to be pretty hype too. So how do you want to start this video? Because this is like a pretty contentious fight, to be honest. Like there's a lot of beef in the community when it comes to this.
So for one, Kenpachi literally at the very start of the Soul Society arc was literally so confident that he could take on several captains. Komamura and also Tosen.
He's the only
and
person
even
to
Vice Captains
actually
at the
kill a
same time.
captain in front of
He
an
showed that
audience
he
to
could
get
do
his
one
status,
punishment
hasn't he?
Because, I mean, against Ichigo, he was getting cut up several
He loves
times. He was just
fighting in front of
laughing his
people. He
ass
just loves
off,
fighting,
having
doesn't care.
blood spewing out of him. against Noitora, like, he literally, like, you know, pierced it with his arm.
Yeah.
He was still, like, just having a good time, you know? So he's able to
He lives for the fight, man.
One of the reasons as to why I think Kenpachi is kind of overlooked in a way is because people might be like, oh, if he was so powerful, why did he lose to Ichigo? Why did he almost lose to Noitora? Why did he have, you know, some trouble against these other characters? And if you read the manga,
that's Yawak,
and
so,
also
like,
one of the
come on.
novels, it is revealed that he had an unconscious suppression within him because he wanted to fight battles to, like, the death. He wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's why he, you know, put on the eye patch. He put on the bells to, like, let
suppress himself.
He
Yeah.
was. But eventually, Unohana helped him pretty much, you know, get rid of this, and that is why we see him with, I guess, a clear head, you know, in battle. And even with this
And then a
seal that,
bank
you know,
eye.
had his power being removed, Byakuya was still seen as being comparable to him, as, you know, we'll be going over later on. And Kenpachi's power is so immense that, like, a lot of these characters realize that not only was he a war potential, but that if they lost Kenpachi in the battle against the Stern Ritter, that it was such a critical point in the war.
Yeah, we've got to keep him
you know,
alive.
he was gone, they might have
Well,
actually...
Aizen had him on a list of 4 people that were to
This
be,
is also a really
like,
good point by Chuck, because one thing that's
wary
really
of, wasn't he?
established in the war arc when it comes to Kenpachi is that Kenpachi is sort of placed in this pillar of he is meant to replace Yamamoto once Yamamoto dies. Yamamoto
big deal.
was essentially the only weapon that the Soul Society really had when it comes to defending themselves against the Quincy as a whole. I mean, it's even shown when, like, Shunsui's first act as head captain is that he goes straight to Central 46 and he's like, yo, we need to train Kenpachi ASAP. And
he needs that boost.
46 years ago we were scared about because they thought that what would happen is that Kenpachi would learn Kendo from all the training with Yamamoto that he did in the past, and then he would just become too strong for them to be able to control.
He's using
So
2
they
hands
were
with his
fearful that
sword.
he might be, like, bordering insanity / be a rogue, you know, character of the series, right?
Yeah.
They didn't know what he could turn out to be if he was to get that strong, which shows us that there is a narrative consistency that, like, he's essentially like their Gustav cannon, right? / like their nuclear bomb on the team. Like,
definitely.
that's the point of
So
him.
much potential of
And
destruction.
the fact that it's actually stated that if Kenpachi is to die, that they might potentially lose the war, which is very similar to statements that Aizen makes about Yamamoto, where he says that if Yamamoto falls, so does the Soul Society. It's actually stated in one of the novels that Aizen purposely left Kenpachi in Waco Mundo with, you know, coincidentally, the strongest of Sparta being Yami with his release form and being number 0.
Because he didn't want him, like, involved in the actual invasion.
As a secret release form and against the Vaso Lorde, which Aizen refers to as a new power, and he's impressed by that. But when it comes to Halibal and Stark losing in their battle, he literally says he's disappointed by their power. Just saying, kind of consistent that he leaves the most trusted Espada, which also in the data books is confirmed to go on more missions than any other Espada for Aizen, being Ukiura and the Secret Strongest. So, Aizen, basically, to go back to this point, he left Kenpachi in Waco Mundo, and he wanted to reach his Hogyoku form before he fought Kenpachi, because he was aware that Kenpachi has the potential
a big deal.
to access this insane power,
Big
which is
deal.
obviously famous among the Soul Society, and he's been suppressing himself for a very long time. I mean, Unohana knows how strong that Kenpachi was, because she fought him in the past when he wasn't restricting himself, and also she points out that, hey, you lost to guys that you should have never lost to, being Ichigo and almost dying against Noitora, and then even having trouble with Yami, which is something that should have actually not happened. Kenpachi even makes a statement which you could write off as him being cocky, but he states something along the lines of, I told the Soul Society that they only needed me to go into Waco Mundo to go take out the Espada, which, when you find out about, you know, how strong he truly is with the restrictions, plus the Aizen statement from the novels about him purposely leaving him in Waco Mundo to prepare for him, it's actually not that crazy to think that, yo, Kenpachi was kind of spitting facts. Like, if he had reached his true power,
could have done it. Spicy. Spicy take, whoa.
Really crazy to think about. So
hot stuff. Damn.
So as I mentioned, Kenpachi is able to take so much punishment and is able to unleash so much power that Grammy, who is, like, renowned to be one of the strongest Stern
Oh
Ritter,
god, what a
to his
weird
own
guy.
imagination, you know, Kenpachi was still too powerful for him, that he had to constantly basically focus on his durability so he wouldn't get cut off, like, immediately. And when Grammy even tried to imagine himself being as powerful as Kenpachi, literally got ripped apart.
Yeah, he couldn't even
Kenpachi's
hold it
body
together, yeah.
couldn't stand his power.
It's also shown that when he stands up on top of that pillar,
It's such a weird concept, but awesome. I can't wait for 1,000 Year Blood War to be animated, man.
When it comes to his pressure, which honestly isn't that crazy to think about. I mean, if Aizen thinks that he needs the Hogyoku to take Kenpachi, and then there's a time skip where characters get an improvement in power, it's not that crazy to think that once Kenpachi gets his true power, plus the buff with his Shikai and Bankai, which he never used in the past,
that's huge up there, it's so much higher.
That's crazy. Like, it's actually really not. Like, Yamamoto was said to have transcended spiritual pressure in the Soul Society arc, while in Shikai, obviously Kenpachi has reached an insane new level.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Power creeping and showing.
The crazier part to think about is that when he fought off against Gremmy, who was pretty much threatening to destroy the whole Serente with this meteor, Kenpachi beat him without even taking off his eye patch. Yeah, when he goes off to fight off against Gerard Valkyrie, he does have to take it off, and he's actually able to go one-on-one with him with the Shikai. And the thing about Gerard is that not only was he like one of the strongest Stern
he was ridiculously insane.
Even amped by the Ashvalen light from Yuha Bach.
Like,
he was able to contend with
guy wasn't even beaten. He just had his power taken away.
He amplifies his power. It is shown that he's able to defeat Zero Division. Yet, here we have Kenpachi fighting off against him, who is even more powerful than last time. And by the way, he actually became that big because of Byakuya, so, he's also stronger than Zero Division. But, pretty much, this guy is...
Zero Division were rubbish,
so
man.
He's fighting off against,
they're meant to be the pinnacle, and they just did nothing.
After receiving this much crazy amount of damage. And when people try to think that Toshiro or some other captains are really going to be able to do much against Kenpachi, I mean, we do have to keep this in mind that he didn't really even get to use his Shikai, properly. He didn't get to, train with it, is what I mean. And his Bankai, I mean, Yachiru even says that she released too much power that he could handle at the time, and that was the first time he used it. So, I mean, we have a very inexperienced Kenpachi, and he was able to,
he's not used to having that.
Valkyrie and cut him apart, so
straight away, the Toshiro fans are going to come out and say, but hey, it's the same point when it comes to him too, because he only just got his new Bankai.
Yeah.
He didn't train with it either. But here's the difference. Alright, Toshiro has used abilities like this in the past.
He's used to using that ability.
Kenpachi literally
just
activated his
got it
and Bankai for the first ever time on that day.
Yeah.
That's the difference between them. So
he doesn't have the experience of that at all.
This adult form and so on, but he actually knows somewhat about the form. Like, he knows that for him to use this form and utilize its full power, he needs to have a aged body. He knows exactly what's going to happen when he goes from his normal Bankai to this new one. He's fully aware of that, but Kenpachi's...
He just straight up, just like, boom, okay, cool, thank you.
Alright, let's see what this thing can do. He's literally just testing it out on the same day, So there's a clear difference there, so you can always say, well, Toshiro, he hasn't trained either, so, what does that mean? Yeah, but the difference is that, Kenpachi has way more potential because, bro, he hasn't even mastered Shikai, let alone Bankai.
Yeah. There's other guys,
really crazy.
has had the chance to mess about with it.
Spiritual pressure, just a single smidgen, just a little squirt of spiritual pressure.
Give me a crumb.
Influxes his body so much that his arm literally splits in half pretty much.
Crazy.
And starts squirting out blood from the swing. That's just that's showing us that if you had a hypothetical Kenpachi who masters this Bankai over a
ridiculous,
be
redonkulous, would be
absolutely insane when it comes to power.
Crazy.
And the point that I was actually talking to Chuck about before we started recording this is that there's actually this weird thing when it comes to Kenpachi and Yachiru that he might be able to utilize the power of true Zanpakuto. Now, he doesn't have true physical Zanpakutos with him, but what he does have is that he has the physical Zanpakuto that he carries around, which is the blade that has all the scratches.
The jagged marks,
He's just been using it like it's a tool for years, right? This was
hacking away at it,
point in his battle with Ichigo, where Zangetsu sort of talks about it, how he doesn't care about his Zanpakuto. But anywho, this sword, that's not even Kenpachi's real blade. That's a blade that he got when he was in basically the Rukon district type of area when he was
just carried it around with him,
like a dead body. This is somebody else's Asuchian sword. This explains why when it comes to his sword, he's never been able to actually speak to the Zanpakuto. But then you also have Yachiru, who is a separate entity, which seems to be his real Asuchi, which he would get if he had his own sword. But then he has two different release forms when it comes to Shikai.
So weird. Eventually, when it started getting into it, it's whoa, what's going on with him? He's very complex. He's a lot more complex than he initially was led to believe.
And then he could summon Yachiru, who would be able to help out in the battle, right? Who could physically be there and fight. Plus, she would would also have her weird Shikai thing, which she used against one of the Quincy's. Like, she was able to summon those weird, like, Monsters Inc. looking fucking things in her battle, you know? So, I don't know. Like, just, obviously this is a side point that isn't super relevant, but it's always something I found very interesting because the whole dynamic between Yochuru and Kenpachi is really weird. And then when he defeats Unohana, he hears a voice come out of nowhere, and then it shows one of the previous Kenpachis, but that's never touched on ever again. So it's like, is Kubo trying to tell us that that figure that appeared or called out to him is his actual, like, that's his real son Funko?
His real sword, like, yeah.
Oh, that's Yochuru, what's she doing down here? Like, he reacts to it like it's somebody else's voice, but then it's never shown again. So I just to end that up, I always find that really fascinating. So you have that to sort of include in the battle too if you want to, but again, it's not super relevant. Just a little weird point of contention I thought I'd bring up when it comes to Kenpachi.
Now with Byakuya, he is part of the royal family of the Kuchiki clan.
Yeah.
And these royal families are known for being really powerful. They have crazy potential. They have strong, refined spiritual pressure. And Ishin Kurosaki, who is, a Shiba, also had really crazy potential, which explains why he was really chatty and...
Hell yeah, he flicked eyes in a way like we just saw, bam.
Ironic that Byakuya made that whole tangent, like only those from a royal family could achieve Bankai, when the whole time Ichigo was from a royal family, being Ishin.
And Byakuya was so powerful in the Soul Society arc that Ichigo, even after he fought off against Renji and Kenpachi, there was still a huge gap between them, which is why Aizen was like, okay, I need to set up somebody in between Renji and Byakuya, because he thought the gap was way too big between them.
Yeah.
And even after Ichigo obtained, his incomplete Bankai, Byakuya was pretty much still able to beat him, and after he was about to finish him off, that is why Ichigo got his anime power-up of, the hollow form, which is how he was able to beat him. But after that,
sick friggin' twist there.
Crazy sense of resolve that he needed to get really powerful, which is why he trained day in and day out for months between the Soul Society arc and the Wekamundo arc, which allowed him to become so powerful that not only could he defeat Zamari, who was the fastest spotter,
he was really fast,
faster than
fast,
but essentially, not only could he keep up with him, but he was also shown as being comparable enough to Kenpachi that he could actually damage and keep up with Yami, who, as we've said, is pretty much the strongest.
The powerful Espada, yeah.
Kenpachi was helping him out, he was still shown as being competitive enough that he could actually take on him and even dodge his attacks. And the crazy part of this is that he was actually bickering with Kenpachi, and he's like, why should I finish him off? It's like a barbarian's job. So, he was basically telling Kenpachi to just take care of Yami.
Do it,
and Kenpachi was like, yo, why are you talking crap? You want to go?
That's fine. If he's willing to fight him.
He's not scared of him. He's intimidated, and he was ready to swap hands with him right there. So, it's possible that they might have fought each other as well during that time. We just didn't see the actual result. Keep in mind, Yami is supposed to have higher spiritual pressure. It is literally stated in the data books and by himself that, Ukiora, Grimmjow, Noitora, all of them are trash compared to him. And not to mention that he literally got 10 times more powerful, as stated in the data books as well. That due to his anger, he grows stronger. And Byakuya, with his Bankai, was still able to hold his own against him. So, you have Byakuya, who literally, barely lost to a, Bankai Ichigo, to being able to contend with, the strongest Espada, which, pretty much could rival Vassal Lord Ichigo and second release Ukiora. So you can clearly see that Byakuya, due to his royal family bloodline, and also his insane potential, he could grow in power really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
It's also pretty crazy to think that when they were fighting against Yami too, Kenpachi wasn't even fully healed after the fight with Noitora.
Oh yeah, he's just gone straight after, yeah.
Where he flashes away, which obviously explains why they couldn't tag Stark, because both of them were damaged at the time. I'm not going to get into the whole debate of Stark versus Kenpachi at that point, but it is true what happened there, and that's that Kenpachi was not fully healed.
He was
weakened.
weakened.
As Chuck mentioned, back and forth throughout that battle, they would basically argue with each other, and then while they would throw attacks at each other, or they would basically tell Yami to fuck off,
get lost.
A legit attack, so that's pretty fucking crazy too.
Yeah, it's mental.
Byakuya is able to take a pretty good amount of punishment, because when he fought against Zamari, he cut off his tendons and was still fine pretty much. But against Asnod, he got his organs ripped out of him, and sure, Plot and Taito, Kubo pretty much got,
didn't want him to go.
By the fangirls because they were they got really salty.
Stupid, he should have died. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm glad he didn't. But story-wise, emotional-wise, he should have.
Anyway, and he was actually in a healing
bath. Sure, I deleted that video he made.
Which basically replenished his blood and restored it. And after training in the Soul Palace, he got so powerful that he was able to defeat several Quincy's, even when they're both standings. One of them that was actually able to damage and keep up with Shunsui with his Shikai, and another one that was able to temporarily paralyze a heavily suppressed Aizen for like 5 minutes. And the crazy part is that when he fought against Gerard, although he did have help from Toshiro and Kenpachi, obviously, after he was frozen, his Senbon Zakuda was able to, cut him apart. And even after Gerard got like
Such a
the second
ridiculous
power,
form.
complete miracle as well. He was still able to react to his attacks and even, block one.
Shows how quick he is, yeah.
So clearly he is shown as being comparable enough to Kenpachi during this point. So
yeah, they're both very capable during the fight, yeah.
Byakuya did show promise in this arc as well.
So after Byakuya returns from the Soul Palace, it's very clearly established that he's hit a new level when it comes to
he's definitely
the captain. Like, he is
shown creeps.
very solidly above the Zero Division, except for obviously Ichibei. Like, he is the anomaly of the group, so don't take that.
They're all
literally.
poo.
Needless to say, replace one of the members.
They don't do anything.
There would be no problem there because
They shouldn't have
Wayne comes
existed.
back and basically do whatever he wants against some of these, like, not like the royal top tier Quincy's, but the other ones where normally he probably would have had trouble with them. It shows there is a clear increase in strength. It's like the fact that he can keep up with the Miracle, who's in his release state, whereas the Zero Division were having trouble with pre-amped Lilybara and the Miracle. It's like, yeah, Byakuya has become a pretty big deal. Now,
just to cut in real quick, so after Yuha basically amps the Miracle, Renji and Byakuya both fought against him, but pretty much the one who did most of the work was Byakuya. And just with his Shikai alone, he cuts off his head and pretty much kills him. And then the Miracle becomes really big. He even says that was like the biggest that he's ever been. And pretty much from the damage that he received from Byakuya, he was strong enough to, pretty much slap all of these captains.
Yeah, get out the way.
Even against the Visors, even with their mask on, they couldn't do anything against him. So, indirectly, Gerard got that powerful from, Byakuya destroying him, so...
That's pretty wild when it comes to Byakuya in terms of strength. Byakuya too, gets huge amps in a lot of his powers. Like, his speed has increased, his Kido has increased too, so it's way more potent with the higher spiritual pressure. He also then has a new technique which is called Nika Senjinka, which is basically an extended version of the technique that he used against each.
I think I don't remember a lot of Thousand Year Blood War because it obviously is just manga. Like with Bleach, I watched all of the anime and read the manga as well, so it's a double viewing, I guess. There are some fillers of Bleach I've still not yet watched, though, I will admit.
It's just a random hand trying to grab them and he just blocked it with his Senbon Sakura. But like the fact that he did that when straight after he transformed, they said this form doesn't
looks so cool
compare in terms of power to the original because it's just that much stronger, right? Like they're not even in the same ballpark of power. That's really cool. So basically, we're going to get onto who would win the actual fight.
Right, here we go.
Compare both of these characters together. Like, what skill sets do they have? Like, who's faster, who's stronger, who can use certain, like, tactical type advantages, which obviously that leans towards Byakuya, that's a no-brainer. But, like, we'll talk about who would actually win the battle because it is interesting, how would the fight really go? Because they do
who would? Like, I think Kenpachi's got it, but I don't know. Because we've gone to Thousand Year Blood War arc as well, so like Kenpachi's like Shikai and Bankai is just like
oof. They both enter a battlefield. Let's say they both go into the Mook and they have an infinite space to go fully all out. Yeah, they're both fully healed. They have access to all their powers.
Oh god.
How do you think the battle goes from start to finish?
Yeah, so as I said, Byakuya does have more intelligence and he is a lot faster. The data books say that he's renowned for being like one of the best Shupo users, and during the Wekamundo arc, he went up against the fastest one, being Zomari, who was like the fastest in base at least. And he's only really, I guess, quote-unquote beaten or bested in speed by Yoruichi, who's like the Flash Goddess, and also Soifon, who, is also like a specialist in Shupo. That was prior to him, training really crazily. And it is also mentioned when he fought against Tsukishima. We don't really talk about the Fullbring arc, but we'll just listen quickly. When he fights against Tsukishima, he even says, that, you trained and you actually got a lot faster.
The Fullbring arc was a weird
one, man. As I mentioned, he's
man.
also really gifted in Kido, and he can pretty much spam it several times if he really needs to, like the Blue Flame one, also the Restriction Band.
Yeah, that Restriction one, he just throws around a lot.
Really cares. But he might be able to use it against Kenpachi, annoy him. Kenpachi doesn't use any of that stuff. He even
doesn't, does he? Yeah.
Boring and
He's very physical.
I guess restrictive.
God, yeah, even with that, he's like, just hit me and I know where you're at.
Tosen one that stripped him of his senses. He was like, this is so boring to fight against. He might, be annoyed by it, but I do believe that Kenpachi could simply just, like, chat out of it using his Ryatsu. So I think Byakuya would try to exploit his lesser speed, just try to block his attacks with his symbol and Sakura. And since it doesn't have blind spots, and since it's formed of countless blades, he will be able to block Kenpachi's attacks for the most part until he powers up even more. Which,
yeah, it depends how powerful he is when the attacks you're trying to block, man. It's like
dodge his attacks. Kenpachi does have more stamina, as we mentioned earlier.
Definitely, he can take
even
more.
when he's heavily injured. So even if Byakuya is able to damage him, I really don't see him, putting him out for the count. Essentially, Kenpachi, if he gets one really good hit in with killing intent,
he's probably got it done.
Simple and Zakuda is gonna be like shattered.
Yeah.
He's gonna, just bleed out pretty much. But I do generally believe that Kenpachi isn't gonna have like an easy battle against him, but it isn't gonna be a battle that he has to go all out against.
Oh,
I definitely do think it's gonna be one that
yeah, I think he does has it, but like yeah, it's gonna be an effort.
Yeah, so the general sort of like feel to this video, if you're listening to this up to this point, is that you might think we've just been giving a lot of credit towards Kenpachi this entire time, but it's not that cut and dry. Like, when it comes to this battle, yeah, it's going to be like this. So, when it comes to Keto Seals and stuff like that, Byakuya can use
Got it.
of those
Yeah,
to
he's
create
got it.
opportunities in the battle. Use, like,
Excuse me.
Koro to seal him in place. He can use lots of Keto and Bakudo to sort of like shoot him from a distance to keep Kenpachi away and use it as a diversion to basically open up attacks to slash him and so on. And it is interesting because when it comes to the speed of the two characters, obviously Byakuya is very much
faster.
shown to be, he's the speed guy. That's his whole aesthetic. It was a major narrative point about
for like Ichigo trying to overcome how fast he was. Yeah.
Fast to keep up with Byakuya. Like that was a huge point of that arc, right? Just in general, he's always been shown to be a fast character. Well, although Kenpachi isn't shown to use Shunpo, just flash steps and all of that stuff in general, right? He isn't really ever shown to do that. We do know that his general reaction speeds and combat ability is quick enough to keep up with that level. So although he might not be flashing around the battlefield like Byakuya, if Byakuya gets anywhere close to him or he uses his rose petal blades to throw it at him, he'll still be able to react to all of them. So a lot of people think because Kenpachi isn't shown to be that quick, that's going to be an issue. It's not at all. He'll be able to fight against him one-on-one. If he gets close to him, he'll be able to keep up with him. This was clearly shown to us in that Yami battle where both of them were keeping up with one another. It's actually wild to think that if Kenpachi could use Flash Step, he'd be pretty fucking quick.
Jeez, yeah.
He's just fighting off of raw reaction speed and fighting like a barbarian, as Byakuya says. But as for the battle in general,
that's random edit. Love that.
Just be Byakuya having to create a lot of openings and stuff. He would need to use Keto a lot. He would need to keep his distance. He would need to throw a lot of stuff at Kenpachi, because if Kenpachi's in Shikai or Bankai, he just has such a power advantage. If you just look at when Remy used the meteor above the Soul Society, basically everybody was freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, and Kenpachi's just
whatever. It's amped by spiritual pressure, which explains wait, really? They're having trouble with a city / state level attack? Isn't that sort of downplay for the verse? No, it's amplified, right? So that's why it's a big deal. Now, they're all freaking the fuck out over it. The Kenpachi and Shikai is yo, let me just slash that.
Yeah, I'll just take rid of that right out.
With his eye patch on.
Yeah.
He fought against Remy all the way to the end with his eye patch on. Even at the very end, he was still on the ground. And then he also was getting attacked by the Quincy girls too, who Ichigo came and slapped afterwards. In terms of the damage that he can take being thrown into space, which that's not actually that crazy of a feat when it comes to how much damage he necessarily took, but being in the vacuum of space, having his organs messed up,
mental
he has his defense is absolutely crazy. He can take an insane amount of punishment. So even if Byakuya lands a lot of shots, Keto will never be able to bind.
It's going to be dead interesting to see that fight animated. Oh my god! Bring it on! Bring it on!
He's just going to break apart. He'll just get out of that. If he gets surrounded by heaps of the blades, you could say that they would cut him maybe in base and Shikai, but one thing that's quite fascinating about Kenpachi's Bankai is that it seems to act very similar to the Bankai that Ichigo had in the Soul Society where it actually improves his speed, because once he goes into Bankai, he flashes up into the sky and he just slaps
dead quick.
This is also why Byakuya and Toshiro start getting a little bit on the edge about being near him because they know how like dangerous he is at this point. So if Byakuya has to go one-on-one against this Bonkai devil-looking figure,
Don't think he's
like
doing it
around the battlefield like a barbarian, as he put it himself. Like, and then there's also Chuck brought up to me before, but yeah, if he uses like Kendo in this state, which will he use it because he's not fully like there? He's
yeah, he don't use it anyway.
Well, with that form, but he's not fully.
He has to stay the hell away from him at all times.
I think even if Byakuya tried to like block one of the attacks, he would two-hand slash straight through him and
the defense. Yeah,
he could always just use slashes to not just knock like one of these Senbon Sakura away, but a lot of them too. Like one slash could knock a heap of them out of the way, especially in Bankai. Like if he just slashes, like I mean, the fact that he could do that to a meteor coming out of the sky is like pretty. I know like they're two different kind of attacks, but it shows you the kind of area of effect a slash like that can do when it comes to
like how much it can actually do. Yeah,
slash, if he's in Bankai, he's going to be too quick. Like, if he lands one single strike, like literally, if he just lands...
He just hits him once, he's done, yeah.
While in Bankai, like, the fight's done. That's just how it is to me. If you want to give it to Byakuya, this man has to, like, prepare every keto from start to finish, like, you know...
So much preparation to know what to do, yeah.
To figure out how he's gonna fucking
Excuse me.
beat Kenpachi. Like, there's just so much shit that Byakuya has to do to beat this Bankai Kenpachi.
Yeah, there really is.
The other side, where it's basically like this: the win condition for Kenpachi, avoid Byakuya's attacks and land a single strike. Whereas Byakuya's win conditions, land 10 different keto.
Yeah, like
fly around the
consistently, like do anything you can.
Keep a distance. Don't ever let this devil thing attack you. Like front on.
It's too much, and he's got to do way too much to get a win.
Kenpachi lands a single blow. So
even if Byakuya is able to like land Shuke Hakuteiken on him, which is like his true form, like his his I guess ultimate attack one that he used against Ichigo. Even if he heavily damages Kenpachi, I mean, as we said,
he's probably gonna get back up.
He's just gonna Kenpachi out of it and keep fighting. So yeah.
Well,
look,
it's really late.
I love Byakuya.
It's not that I'm bored.
Boy,
it's just really late me recording this.
There's just too much in Kenpachi's favor that would pretty much counter that he would lose in this situation.
Yeah.
But for those of you who were curious about earlier in the series and which different arcs would make the fight any different, we're going to basically shoot through those really quick. We won't spend too much time.
Cool. All right, I like that.
Society arc, if they were to fight, how do you think that would go? Because this one's pretty cut and dry.
Byakuya.
Yeah.
Very clearly, because, as I said, Aizen thought that the gap between Renji and Byakuya was too big. That is why he put Kenpachi
in between. Yeah.
And, I mean, even after
so that means that he ranks higher. Yeah.
After being near death and getting this incomplete Bankai, Byakuya pretty much still beat him and forced Ichigo to get
the holification.
Form on to even like heavily wound him.
Yeah.
So yeah, clearly, yes, Kenpachi is gonna get Speed Blitz and cut apart.
Yeah, basically, so when Ichigo fought against Kenpachi in the Soul Society arc, Kenpachi believes that Ichigo is around assistant captain level. After their battle, Ichigo was then said to be the level of a captain in terms of spiritual pressure by Ukitake when he senses him on the bridge. Now, all this shows to us is that that's how much Kenpachi was holding himself back.
Yeah.
It does stress, like, hey, you should have never lost to someone like Ichigo at this point in the series. That was just silly. Which,
ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. But Byakuya at that point, if they were to fight and Kenpachi holds himself back to that Ichigo level or anywhere around that level of power, Byakuya would end the battle in a single flash step. Like, I'm not saying this to annoy Kenpachi fans, but it is the truth. Like, if they were to have fought in the Soul Society
at that time, yeah, definitely. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Because he was much stronger than Kenpachi.
Yeah.
It was only because Kenpachi was holding himself back. So it's
he was restricting himself. Come on.
It's just the truth.
He was never going full out.
In Waco Mundo, though,
he was enjoying himself.
I would say Kenpachi because he was able to. Yeah, I would say Kenpachi because he was able to keep up with second release Yami alongside Byakuya. But what's fascinating with that is that he wasn't fully healed when he fought against Yami. Byakuya is doing this while he's in Bankai, right?
Yeah.
We also don't even know like fully what happened off screen. Like for all we know, Kenpachi could have been doing all of the fighting. And also like if Kenpachi had reached this like potential full power that even Aizen was worried about, like what is Byakuya gonna do? Because Byakuya hasn't gone to the Soul Palace at this point, so he's kind of screwed like in that regard. Yeah, I'd say Kenpachi in the Waco Mundo arc. What would you say? Anything to say about that?
I mean, mean, as we mentioned earlier, he might have been cocky about it, but he's like, oh, like I told
Yeah, you only need to send
Side
me
I
in,
could
yeah.
literally just go in by myself and take care of these fools. So yeah, I think that's pretty solid.
As for the Fullbring arc, it would be pretty competitive, I'd like to say, because all of the captains seem to have trained now.
Yeah, they've all like worked themselves up.
No idea.
Weird arc.
On a linear scale.
Didn't feel like it was part of the story until I read the manga, and I was like, oh god, it is.
Huh. Sort of a run for his money. He just gets stronger, as I said, on a linear scale. So that one's
It was a weird way to end the
undecided.
anime as well. I thought it was a bit disappointing. So like, it's just gonna come back.
It is
Boom.
competitive at least, I'll say that. What do you think about the Fullbring arc?
Feel bad for Retro Rhino doing all the
Yeah, so
animation
in
work that they
the,
did on his videos, and now that the anime's coming back, it's like,
it does say
but
that
yeah.
Byakuya, trained
Really
day in
good
and day out
fucking,
after he
like,
lost to
videos,
Ichigo,
Retro
because
Rhino, man.
Or it implies that Kenpachi didn't. And as I said, when he fought off against Tsukishima, he says that he did get faster, he did train. So I would say that Byakuya does have more in his favor to win in that scenario. But I mean, Kenpachi was so powerful that he literally cut like one of the Stern Ritters in half and finished the fight like the quickest. So
Fullbring is cool.
And Byakuya does imply that if Tsukishima fought Kenpachi instead of him, that it might have not been too good for Kenpachi, because Tsukishima's ability allows him to not only enter himself into like somebody's Zanpakuto, but also like their past, and he would know Kenpachi's abilities and possibly like the counters to him. So I would say that generally Byakuya. So yeah, but I do agree that it is more competitive in that sense.
Yeah, the Tsukishima comment that Chuck mentioned is very interesting, because it's more to show that, in terms of intelligence and the way that they fight, it's very different. So I agree with that too, because it's like, look, if Tsukishima and Kenpachi were to just have a straight-up brawl fight with their swords, like, Kenpachi's going to win the battle. Like, there's no question about that, but it's
definitely.
the fact that he would have so much hacks potential in that fight that it would be very hard for Kenpachi to win, whereas Byakuya would be able to deal with an opponent like that much better, and he actually did, so that makes sense there. But it also is pretty cool to see, in terms of intelligence and the way that they fight very differently. So I'd say it's very competitive and back and forth. I lean towards Byakuya, but I can also see where there's potential for Kenpachi to win there too. As for the start of the war arc, now you could say, what's really the difference between the two characters in the Fullbring arc as opposed to the start of the war? Not a whole lot really, other than the fact that Kenpachi does show us some okay sort of feats. Like, he comes back with 3 different Quincy's on his back that he just casually
hey,
off.
got a collection for you.
How's he against the other cast? Contentious to say, but he does seem to be established as being a big deal, and also straight away he is listed as a war potential, whereas characters like Byakuya aren't. So that does show that
And Toshiro isn't either.
Yeah, and Toshiro, although he does have a secret, cool, extra Bankai thing, he's not a war potential. So it would basically go like this: Soul Society arc, Byakuya; Waco Mundo arc, Kenpachi; Fullbring arc, competitive, but leaning more so towards Kenpachi. War arc at the very start,
Kenpachi.
most likely Kenpachi, and then post Soul Palace, Bankai has Bankai
Kenpachi.
has too much potential. Byakuya, if he gets hit a single time while Kenpachi's in Bankai,
Just done. Done.
I'd like to say, I think we did a pretty good job covering all of this. We did sort of improv a lot of it, but
that was good.
In terms of ending off the video.
I feel that generally we covered it pretty well. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff we didn't mention because that is what the in-depth videos are for. I feel you're going to have a lot of fun explaining Kenpachi's power progression in the novels. And generally, as we mentioned, Kenpachi just has more feats. He has more narrative implications that, hey, he's pretty much one of the strongest Soul Reapers.
Because I'm Kenpachi.
Does have this narrative implication that he's
so
his
sick.
rival, or that he is somewhat comparable to him. It's just a lot more for Kenpachi, having the favor of winning. But yeah.
My final thoughts on this, guys, are this. So, we've seen what Byakuya can do at his peak with a little extra sprinkle of training from the Zero Division, right? Imagine a fully marked Shinkai and Bankai Kenpachi where he doesn't take any damage from swinging as hard as he can.
He can actually control it properly.
It's
Whoa.
literally the kind of power that I imagine a Kenpachi individual to have. So, final thoughts. Kenpachi wins the battle, and I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast length discussion here.
It's not quite podcast length, but that was quite fun, that.
There are a lot of stuff to talk about, so please give the video a thumbs up. You know, support Chuck's channel. Subscribe if you're from my channel too. And I've sent you over to this video because I will shout this video out in one of my future ones. So if you're from the future, subscribe to Chuck. In general, give the video a thumbs up if you want to see more videos.
I like Chuck's videos. Like, obviously, like, when he does his, like, SCP videos, I have no idea. I've never played the games, but, well, the Godzilla stuff as well is just like, what? But, yeah. Ooh, Urahara Ukiura. That is the next one, isn't it? That is the next one. We're going to be checking it out in a couple of days, and then the third one. Can't remember.
And yeah, definitely check out his other Bleach videos because I feel they're a lot more polished than the ones that I
Clyde's
made.
videos are
So I think his
class.
one's going to be better. And you know, he goes a lot more in depth with the whole Seto thing. You know, he's going to go more in depth to Resurrection, and he goes over like Ichigo's power-ups really in depth. You know, they're like 30-40 minutes long. So, you know, he goes pretty in on that, so definitely check him out. Yeah, thank you for taking time out of your day to, work on this with me, Kangaroo Man.
Kangaroo Man.
Literally, so,
Uzi.
thank you again for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you thoughties next time. Peace out.
Peace out. Sick. That was a cool video. That was a good discussion. I thought Kenpachi just got it, though. From the beginning, no. But as it progressed, yes. Absolutely. Sick, that was a good video. And then, so we're going to check out next, not now, but next video, what if Urahara and Ukiura actually fought? Which is going to be an interesting scenario. Because, like, he just turns up and Urahara's like, whoa. And then it's like, what if they actually just went in, man? That would have been an interesting one. Save my thoughts for the video. So, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video upload, links in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all I ask, helps with the channel. Greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for that, and thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't, leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys next time.